Georgia. Ray Charles had it right. Just keep saying Georgia. 22-19. SEC champions, Georgia. 4.5 Chali on the 1 to 5 rating scale. Some of you called this ugly. Probably the same crew that called that, 2011 LSU Alabama overtime game ugly. Different strokes for different folks, as Meemaw would say. This one was a conference title game that went to overtime. Minimum 4 Chali, and I'd put a half on it just to make people mad. You have to cut the head off the snake is a sentence that I found myself saying about Georgia 19 times this year, 26 times this year. It's such an imperfect team. It's such a flawed team. It makes it so much more beautiful when they win because you know what's winning? The G. That's what's winning. Thursday and Tuesday, I said to myself, I need the game where the G shows up because I've gotten past the point where I expect individual star efforts from Georgia. If I get it, that's wonderful, but I don't expect that from them. I need the game where the G shows up. That's the kind of game where you watch it and you say, boy, it feels like come hell or high water, somehow, some way, the cumulative weight of this program is winning this game for us. You saw it. It was the SEC championship game. You saw it. There was like a double barrel middle finger to the entire world. Apparently also the commissioner of the SEC. Some would say me. I wouldn't. Some would say me because I had the audacity to pick Texas to win the game twice. This is just competitive culture. So, you know how when there's been off the field issue with Georgia, the arrests and stuff, people have questioned Georgia's culture. And I've understood where they're going with that. Now, my retort has always been, I think Georgia's got a rock solid culture. I think they've got a problem within the culture that leads to things like that happening. And I've had people come back at me saying, no, it's just culture top to bottom. Well, that's stupid. It's not, because there's a difference in competitive culture. Competitive culture was on display in Atlanta last night. Competitive culture is the kind of thing where your quarterback's arm is hanging on and he wasn't really playing all that great to begin with, and you got a kid named Gunnar Stockton that the broadcast crew is having to lick their index finger and flip through their notes to see where he's even from, and you trail at the half. Texas got you down, and yet somehow, some way, you can't do anything great except defense, and you ride it to a win in overtime. I thought it was one of the great moments in the history of that program. And I've watched like every Georgia game my entire life. Not the best, because they've won national championships, but it's such a program moment. You didn't need that to beat TCU. You needed it to beat Texas yesterday. Unbelievable moment, man. To watch like Nate Frazier doing what he was doing. Etienne, if you could just bottle up whatever Trevor Etienne feels towards Texas and unleash that on your biggest enemies in your life, your enemies won't be around longer. Etienne's got 5 touchdowns this year against Texas. He's got 4 against everyone else. So I wondered in this game, we're going to paper pop ahead of time, padlock stat incoming. I wondered in this game, I even thought in this game, Texas is going to run the ball better. Texas thinks that physically they can handle themselves a lot better than they did the first go around. And man, make no mistake, live bullets flying in this game, ultra physical. But you know, when the dust settles, there it is right in front of me. Texas against Georgia round 1, 1.1 yards per carry. Texas against Georgia in round 2, right there again, about 1.1 yards per carry. Texas, I think had 4 turnovers the first time. They were turnover prone the first time, 3 more turnovers. Texas, this game allows 6 more sacks, 15 more tackles for loss. You get Quinn Ewers, you get Steve Sarkisian behind the chains. Really, Georgia gets anyone behind the chains, they're going to have a tough time, especially this team because they don't have a difference maker at quarterback. They've got a future difference maker probably at quarterback, but that guy was on the bench last night. Inexplicably, they did not choose to use him. But I'll talk about Texas in a second. Georgia football, 2024, it's been like watching Denzel in Flight the whole time. Great movie. Surprisingly, even Jesse has seen it, so there's no excuse for you not to have seen it. If you're watching with your girl, fast forward through the opening scene. Take Uncle Josh's word for that. Just fast forward through the opening scene, go back and watch it later. But the rest of the movie is, spoiler alert, kids, it's been out like 15 years. Man, the plane's crashing. And engine's gone. Other engine's gone. My co-pilot's freaking out over here. He's a rookie. I got to invert the plane. I'm flying it upside down. I'm trying to, there goes systems failure. Oh, avionics is out. What am I supposed to do? I got no shot here. There's a field. Let's put it down over there. We're going to die. We're going to die. We're going to die. Wake up 3 days later in the hospital bed. Some people didn't make it, but a lot of folks did. How'd you do that? That's what I think about Kirby Smart. How? How have you done this? Did you see the collective, did you see the collective outpouring of emotion last night when that team won that game? I'm not saying it's a team that thought they had no business. They certainly got business winning the game. It's Georgia. It's the SEC championship game. But to do it and just to be so proud that it's a program win, man. It's a Block G win. It's a Georgia win. A guy like Gunnar Stockton comes off the bench just to fight and fight and fight. I don't know. So I said it was one of the best moments in the history of that program, and some of you disagreed with me. I think you need to look so much broader than just what kind of quality of game you think you just saw. And you also got to understand the quality of opponent Texas is. There are these statements made in vacuums, and there's this thing that playing against another really good team does, and it can make you look really wobbly. What I'm trying to tell you is I'm not quite sure if Texas was on the field against UNLV last night, they would have been limited as much as they were. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So, Texas supremely disappointed me in this game. It was their game, man. They outgained Georgia 260-54 in the first half. Georgia -2 rushing at the half, and Texas led 6-3. Knowing full well Georgia's a second half team. They have been all year. Georgia this season is 4-2 when trailing at the half. Georgia, they could go like a decade under a guy like Smart and not trail 6 times at the half in regular season games. They've trailed half a dozen times at the half this year. They've only played 13. They've trailed 6 times at the half. They've won 4 of them. The 2 losses were Bama and Ole Miss. They've won every other one, including this one. I can't put my finger on it with Texas. I can, but it still surprises me because I expected a little bit more this time around. Carson Beck's out the entire second half. You've got the lead going into the second half. You've tripled them up. You've quadrupled them up in total yardage, and you just can't finish the job because you can't make it happen in the red zone and you can't make it happen downfield. I said something I rarely say because I rarely even tweet during games because most of the time I'm at another one and I can't watch. I rarely tweet during games. But I said last night during this game, after Beck had already been knocked out and Gunnar Stockton was in, and Quinn Ewers in that offense was doing nothing explosive, I said I expect to see backup versus backup here in a second. I was floored that they never put Arch Manning in this game. Floored. Steve Sarkisian has forgotten 10 times more about his team or about this sport in general than me. I know that. That's why I so rarely question things, but I'm questioning that. I wonder if he had it to do over again, would he insert a different dynamic at quarterback into this game? It wouldn't be like Gunnar Stockton. They were forced to play him if you're Georgia, and Gunnar Stockton hadn't played hardly all year or in his career. Quinn Ewers has. And not by force. They have chosen to use him. They chose to use him on the road in College Station last week. And I think he gives a much different threat, much more in line with what a Haynes King gives at quarterback that gave Georgia fits than Quinn Ewers. And they kept riding Quinn Ewers. And there was no concern from Georgia. They hit one slant across the middle, really, really well-designed play, and they take it to the house, and everyone started mouthing off, what now? What now? What now's the exact same as what has been. You do not have a dynamic threat at quarterback. You got the best defensive mind in the game across the field. And even if he doesn't have the best players he's ever had, the players he does have are plenty good enough to stop that and to bottle that up. So I was very surprised by that. Very surprised. They brought him in. They brought Arch Manning in once to start overtime. Gained a few yards. Never saw him again. I don't know. I know they trusted their preparation. Just like they did the first time. They're 0 for 2 on trusting that preparation against this team. So it's a small sample size. It's 2 games. Texas has got themselves a little Georgia problem now, which I kind of made akin to the whole Georgia being dominant other than when they face Nick Saban, and then Saban's gone so no one cares about that anymore. Well, Texas may have that problem. Sark may have that problem with Kirby Smart and with Georgia. Until further notice, I've got to believe that. Georgia gets to go heel up now as much as they can. We'll see on Carson Beck. They played it very, very smart. We talked Thursday about what you're going to have to do if your quarterback, if if Drew Aller or Dylan Gabriel or Carson Beck went down in a big moment, those were the three that we thought really stood out. You have to hide the injury. And Georgia did a good enough job of masking the injury, which I think is pretty serious to Carson Beck, but we'll see, because you only got to buy yourself 24 hours. You cannot allow the committee to get wind that there's a season-ending injury and then adjust or calibrate their grade of you, like they did with FSU last year. So congratulations to Georgia. Such a program win. I can't emphasize enough. That one, I think, will echo through the halls there and mean a lot more to a lot of those folks than the TCU national title win did. Like, they won the national title when they beat Ohio State that year. It was semantics. It was a formality when they went to wherever we were, LA, to win the title. This game last night, for what it means and represents for that program, I think that night last night means more than that national title win means. That sounds crazy, but that's how I feel about it.